Welcome. This meeting is being recorded and is streaming live on the county's website. But before we get started, I have an announcement to make about the rezoning. There is a rezoning request for property located on Lovell Road. It has been withdrawn by the applicant and will not be heard this evening. If you are here for that rezoning, you're welcome to stay, but you're also free to leave at any time that you choose. So at this time, I'll do a call to order. I'll call the July 7th, 2020 meeting of the Carroll County Board of Commissioners to order, and I'm going to ask the County Clerk, Susan Mabry, to take a roll call.
Chairman Michelle Morgan.
Here.
Vice Chairman George Chambers.
Here.
Commissioner Montreal McClendon. Commissioner Clint Chance.
Here.
Commissioner Tommy Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Steve Fuller.
Here.
Commissioner Ernie Reynolds.
Here.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to ask Lieutenant Richard Harrison of the Carroll County Sheriff's Department to offer invocation, and then it'll be followed by Boy Scout Troop 138, who will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Richard?
Tempted and tried, we're oft made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. Father alone will know all about it. Father alone will understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. When death has come and taken our loved ones, it leaves our home so lonely and drear. Then do we wonder why others prosper, living so wicked year after year. When we see Jesus coming in glory, when he comes from his home in the sky, then we shall meet him in that bright mansion. We'll understand it all by and by. Father alone will know all about it. Father alone will understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by.
I pledge allegiance
Item number 5 is the approval of tonight's agenda with the removal of item 10.1, which was the rezoning that was withdrawn by the applicant. Do I have a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any
Motion.
opposed?
Motion approved, 6-0.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have item 6, which is the approval of the minutes. Each of the commissioners have copies of 6.1, the work session meeting minutes from May 28th, 6.2, commission meeting minutes from June 2nd, 6.3, work session meeting minutes from June 11th, and 6.4, special called meeting minutes from June 16th. Do I have a motion and a second to approve these?
Make a motion to approve items 6.1 through 6.4 as presented.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Approved, 6-0.
The next item on the agenda is public comments. Public comments are just that, an opportunity for the public to address the commission with any issues or concerns they may have. All remarks should be directed to the chairman and not to individual commissioners, staff, or any citizens in attendance. Members of the public shall not make any inappropriate or offensive comments. Any individuals who violate the rules of decorum may be removed from the meeting. At this time, the board will not comment, nor will the board take any action on any of these comments. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. You'll be given a 1 minute and a 30-second notice. There was a sign-up sheet in the back. We'll take those comments first. And then anyone else wanting to speak afterwards, we'll still have time to do that too. So the first person I have on here is Sam Pyle. And Sam, if you'll state your name and address for us.
I'm Sam Pyle, 112 Garnett Point Drive, Carrollton, Georgia, 30117. I want to speak just a moment to support our Confederate monument. I've lived in Carroll County most of my life. Confederate monument needs to stay where it is, in my opinion. My maternal ancestors were some of the first early settlers in this county. 11 of them served in the Confederate Army from this county. 5 were killed in battle or died of disease in Union prisoner war camps. They lie in unmarked, unknown graves a long way from home in Mississippi, Kentucky, Virginia, and Illinois. And if you read the inscription on the front of this monument down here, you would see it reads Confederate Dead. To me, that's personal. The Walker, Johnson, Jones, Holland, and Evans families from Carroll County never had any closure. So I look on this monument as their lost one's tombstone. It's also a veterans monument to Carroll County citizen soldiers who were men of their time. They were mostly white, and believe it or not, a few blacks, who were fighting for their constitutional rights and liberty from an overbearing federal government and to defend their homes and families from invading federal armies. But I believe we're addressing a moot point here really concerning this monument. Georgia Law 53-1 states we can't move the monument for any reasons proposed locally. U.S. Congress passed 117 Stat 772 Public Law 108-29 in 2003 to protect veterans' monuments. The report from the 113th Congress in 2013 State Law House Rule, 1497 concerns a War Memorial Protection Act. These federal laws have a bearing locally, but I know you guys know all about these laws. But recently, Reverend Avita King, who is a niece of Reverend Martin Luther King, recently stated, "Some of our ancestors came over here in different boats, so now we're all here in the same boat." She was implying we all need to get along. Removing and tearing down not only Confederate monuments, but all our monuments by a lawless, ignorant mob further divides our community and supports a Marxist movement trying to take over our very country. And so I say, take heed, local agitators. Intimidation don't work here in Carroll County. Galatians 5:14 and 15 states, "For all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. But if ye bite and devour one another, take heed that ye not be consumed one of another. Thanks for listening.
Next, I have John Wright. And John, if you'll state your name and address too.
My name's John Wright. I live at 5208 Smithfield Road, Bowden. I'm here to represent the McDaniel Curtis Camp 165 of Carrollton. First off, I'd like to present you with a petition with about 700 signatures. This petition is supporting keeping the monument where it is. As you know, there is an online petition by the opposition. As our understanding, the online petitions have no legal standing in this state. Our position is from people who work and live in this area, and I believe it's legitimate. I'd like to make a few points. The city owns the monument, but you own the property it's on, the county. Now, this problem was settled under Marty Smith's administration. In fact, the Sons of Confederate Veterans helped solve the problem by presenting the original minutes where it was donated to the city. So it's not yours to deal with. All right, point two, as Sam has said, Georgia law OCGA 50-3-1 prohibits you from doing anything with the monument. So even if it was yours, you couldn't move it. Point three, you are administrators. You're here to administer the law. You're not here to make the law. That's what legislatures do. You're not here to interpret the law. That's what judges do. You're here to administer it. And the law is clear. You cannot move that monument. Now, I know that our opposition has a different idea about what that monument is and what we are. The people who want to move that monument believe that America is a bad country started by evil men. We're not a bad country. The truth is we're a good country. And we were started by honorable men. Not perfect men, but honorable men. Now, the Confederate monument is across Tanner Street from the MLK monument. If you remove one and leave the other, you prove that we are truly a bad country. You will be proving that we have made no progress. But if you leave them side by side, you will prove that we are a good country and that we are governed by good people. Thank you.
Chuck Mulkey, is that correct? Okay.
My name is Chuck Mulkey. I live at 305 Little New York Road out in Carroll County. I want to speak to show my opposition as well as the Sons of Confederate Veterans opposition to moving the monument, and just to demonstrate that there is opposition. I guess you haven't heard anything except from one side of the argument up till today. I know we haven't been involved until real recently, but I spent a little bit of time today down here copying down the inscriptions on that monument. I don't know how many of you have read it, but with your permission, I'll just go ahead and read what's written on it. I find no offense, no offensive language, no racially separating comments in anything that's written on that monument. The face of it says, "To our Confederate dead, in proud and loving memory of the Confederate soldiers of Carroll County, 1861 to 1865. The west face of the monument says, "How sleep the brave who sink to rest, by all their country's wishes blessed. By fairy hands their knell is rung, by forms unseen their dirge is sung. Their honor comes, a pilgrim's gray, to bless the turf that wraps their clay." The south face of the monument says, "Erected by the Annie Wheeler Chapter, United Daughters of Confederacy, April 26, 1910. The east face of the monument says, "Upon the altar of home and country, they placed the offering in fullest measure of all they had to give. I find very little to find offense with in what's written on that monument. And as Sam said, to us, as sons of Confederate veterans, that is equivalent to a tombstone for people who were never brought back from the battlefield. They didn't have refrigerated trucks, they didn't have mortuaries, and those soldiers got buried in a ditch if they got buried at all. So that's the tombstone for them. And I don't like to see it being used as a political pawn to try to turn the country into a socialist state by tearing down our history and replace it with someone else's history. We're all Americans. We all have the same history. And you may interpret it differently, and that's everybody's right to do so. It's a free country. But I don't think we ought to start tearing stone memorials down to make a point. I'd like to take one more second and read the charge to the Sons of Confederate Veterans. This is what our organization is based on. When the Confederate soldiers got advanced age, they passed this down to us and started the organization that we're a part of. And it says, "To you, sons of Confederate veterans, we submit the vindication of the cause for which we fought. To your strength will be given the defense of the Confederate soldier's good name, the guardianship of his history, the emulation of his virtues." My time's out? Yes. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Sorry, Chet, thank you.
I apologize. I'll read it to you another time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oops.
Richard Whitten.
My name's Richard Whitten. I live at 487 Baxter Road, Carrollton, Georgia. And I'd like to say, I'll continue what Chuck said. To you, sons of Confederate veterans, we submit the vindication for the cause which we fought. To your strength will be given the defense of the Confederate soldier's good name, the guardianship of his history, the emulation of his virtues, the perpetuation of those principles which he loved, which made him glorious, which you all cherish. Remember, it is your duty to see the true history of the South is presented to generations. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Kent Buchanan.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Kent Buchanan. I live in Whitesburg, Georgia, 269 East Highway 5. With deference to Madam Chair's rules, I'd like to address the officer. What a beautiful voice, what a blessing to hear. Thank you. I know I'm supposed to only address the chair, but I just couldn't help, but thank you for that. I'm here to speak on behalf of the community of Carroll County and the West Georgia area, specifically the Whitesburg area, which has a proposed rock quarry. The rock quarry has an obvious impact which can be studied economically and developmentally to destroy property values, to destroy quality of life, not only for the people of the community with heavy traffic, industrial traffic, large trucks that would move right along a school route. In addition, the environmental damage that would be caused to the wildlife in an area of historical significance and a tributary to the Chattahoochee River. This river brings commerce, recreation, water, lifeblood to our community. So the poison runoff of exudate from rock quarry activity for potentially 5 or 10 employees to work there seems to be a heavy trade-off for the citizens of our county and our community. In fact, when I looked at the CEO of the development, Green Rocks, home address in Birmingham. He has a beautiful home, probably great property value, and I noticed he lives nowhere near a rock quarry. My home would be within a mile or two of this rock quarry. My family and my children are there. I'm seeking the support of the commission, Madam Chair, to listen to the citizens of the community, to listen to our concerns and weigh and balance our concerns with the needs of our community, our environment, and our quality of life, which brought us to that community in the first place. So my time is near, and I appreciate your opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Tanya Spinks?
Hi, my name is Tanya Spinks, and I live at 4365 Hutchinson Ferry Road. I am here to let you all know that we are in support of the moratorium. We know that if this doesn't take place, that there are going to be many other communities that are going to be affected by the rock quarries coming in if this change isn't made. And if I could just take a minute, everybody that's here, if you would be willing to stand up if you are in support of the moratorium, could you stand up? You have our support. We know there has to be change, and I just wanted to let you guys know. Thanks.
Tom and Louise Hammond? Okay. Samantha Bailey?
Samantha Bailey, 477 Roy North Road, Carrollton, 30117. I do not have stuff lined up. I am a citizen here that votes for y'all, that I'm lazy and I should not skip being to meetings, but I do because I count on y'all. Count on y'all to, when I vote you in, for you to take in consideration my feelings and how I think things should be handled and happened and done, and not through political means. I do oppose the monument being done. I am young, so I have never done any kind of political going out there doing anything, but you hear about the silent majority, and I'm the silent majority, and I don't know how to get out there to say, hey, this is how I feel. I feel like if I riot, which I haven't, and I don't plan on it, then, you know, I get more attention and I get more of what I want. But I don't want to do that. I would rather be able to count on y'all to do what's right, and for me not to have to push myself out there and do something that is illegal to let you know, hey, this is how I feel. And so I thought by coming here today, even though it's not on the agenda to talk about, that, you know, coming up here and being here, showing myself would help towards letting people know, hey, what I want. Who else would be here to back me to say, hey, this is what we want, without having to be out on the curb protesting and tearing up businesses that people have worked their entire lives to have. And so I'm done. Thank you.
I don't have any other names on the list. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward and speak? I'll ask again before we move on with our agenda. Is anyone else that would like to come forward and speak during the public comments? Okay. And if you'll give us your name and address, please.
Hey, my name is Jenny Bryant Corbin. I live at 485 Wilson Road in Whitesburg, Georgia, 30185. I just want to be another voice saying we need all the help that we can get to make this quarry either delayed so that we can figure something else out, or, you know, magically gone would be lovely. Everything that they've said is exactly how we all feel. It was quite a surprise for most of us to find out that there was a quarry coming to Whitesburg, a potential proposed quarry. So I think a lot of us are confused by that. But we really are looking to you guys for your support so that we at least have a pause on this, so we can gather ourselves, do our research, and do what's right. I just want to be yet another voice to say, give us time, please. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward?
My name is Victor Parrish. I live at 2201 Star Point Road. I know I'm not close to this rock quarry going in, but I've seen the results of a rock quarry, what it does. And the destruction to the land at that hole that they're putting in the ground, the toxics that come from that ground is cancer causing. It destroys waterworks. It destroys wells. It destroys lakes. And it also destroys wildlife. These wildlife, if you want to see and investigate the one that's on 34 Highway in Franklin, Georgia. That hole's been in the ground. There ain't nothing living in that water. There's no wildlife. The deer across the road has cancer in it because I've killed some of them. The wildlife, it affects it. It would affect this water in there. It puts toxins in there. It would put it in here that LaGrange gets their water from this, where it's running to the lake. So it's going to affect a lot of people. And we need to do more time in investigation. I think if anything, there will be a tariff put in on every ton of rock. If it gets passed, it can be taxed at 25% for this money to be put up for the cleanup after they leave. Because these places are around. They're in Alabama. There's a glazing place over there where they did toxic stuff over there. This land is no good. So these places are around. So everybody needs to pull together as a group of Carroll County. And we look to y'all for the right answer. Thank you for your time.
Yes, please come forward.
Hello, my name is Kenneth Frazier. I live at 2476 East Highway 5, very close to where this property is also going to be developed. I have another little perspective. First off, I'm pretty sure that if I said everybody who's here would like to say amen to what's been said so far, would you do that for me? Amen. All of you want to come up here and say something, right? I can't pretend to speak for everyone here. My family is the third generation here in town, well, in that area. We happen to own another piece of property that got split by the Lake Seton Reservoir. During the development of that, we were told, you're going to be able to use that, you're going to be able to have a boat, you're going to be able to put a dock in, you're going to be able to fish, you're going to be able to swim. That didn't quite work out, even though we sold the property and we went along with everything that was done. The environmental impact on Lake Seton prevents us now from even being able to walk up to the water's edge and put our foot in the water without risk. Now, if that's the case for my family not to be able to use that reservoir because of environmental considerations, surely we're going to find that this quarry is going to have a similar impact on our property values, well, everything. One of my major concerns, honestly, is that they're going to kill my well. And about 150 people around me, within 2 or 3 miles. They're going to be down 200 or 300 feet. Our water table is very high at that point. I suspect that's going to be one of the impacts, and maybe you'll be finding litigation coming from that, as well as other things. Thank you.
Yes, please.
How y'all doing? I'm Christian Daniel, 1677 East Highway 5, Whitesburg, Georgia. Me and my wife sunk everything we own into our new property and our new home. It's 3,000 feet from the front door of the rock quarry. I'm a safety manager for a general contractor, which I told these folks the other day, the #1 killer in construction is silica dust. And all day long, they're going to grind aggregate. Silica dust will be floating in the air. Lake Wampa's right across the street from me. That lake's going to be covered in dust. All the houses around are going to be covered in dust. This is all from Vulcan Materials, which is in a 5-mile radius. This causes silica, pulmonary disease, reduction in lung function, leukemia, dysarrhythmia, heart failure, cardiac arrest, stroke, fertility problems, miscarriage, premature birth, low birth weights. 1 in 7 children will grow up with asthma, probably inherit COPD in their early stages in their 20s is what it says. I just want my voice to be heard. I didn't work my whole life to have to listen to a rock quarry. I mean, you're going to disturb the roads, just like Mr. Fraser said. You hit an aqua vein 3 miles away, you're looking at 100 to 125 foot as you drill down to get a new well. A lot of people don't have $10,000 sitting in their back pocket or in the bank to have a new well put in. So you're going to destroy our roads. Whitesburg and Carroll County just blacktopped all the Highway 5 a few years back. It's going to get rid out. It's going to hold water. We're going to have another situation there. We got the river. We got McIntosh Reserve right down below us. I just wanted my voice to be heard. I appreciate your time, Madam Chairman. And we look to y'all guys, take care of us, do the right thing. Thank you, ma'am.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak during public comments?
Hi, my name is Pam Malone. I live at 3645 Roosterville Road, Rooteville, Georgia, 30170. And since I live in another county, maybe I'm not supposed to speak, but I work in this county, and I ride by here and I see all the beautiful things that's been done over the years, many years. I don't protest, I don't write. I don't usually speak up. I don't do speaking engagements. I'm the one who sits back in the corner and claps and pats somebody else on. But watching TVs and everything going on in this world today breaks my heart. I know we're a small town and a small community. I'd love to keep it that way, I don't want Atlanta coming here. I don't want the trouble they have coming here. I love this little town. I loved when the protesters marched through Carrollton and wound up at the AMP with the police officers and the deputy sheriffs. I was like, go Carrollton, that was awesome. I look at my grandkids and I think, what kind of world are we leaving for these kids? We need to, I just believe we need to keep all the monuments. I know everybody has their own opinion about them. I don't look at them to see anything bad or anything really good or whatever. It's a statue. I'm not into idolizing statues by no means, but it is part of the history. It is part of this town. I think everything should be taught. I think all kids should be taught about both sides of the spectrum. Let's everybody learn this and everybody learn this and see where we came from and where we can go to. I want to leave my kids a quiet, peaceful little town. My grandkids, my kids are grown. And like I said, it just breaks my heart seeing everything go on. And I don't want anything to happen in Carrollton that's been happening around the world. Instead of us being a follower of everybody else, why can't we be a leader in Georgia? Why can't we be a leader in the world? I mean, we were a leader as far as the protests go. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Imogene Kitty, 325 Rosewood Lane, Carrollton. I moved here about 16 years ago from the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I've come to really love this community, love this area so much, all the people. It took a long time for me to get into this community because you don't seem to trust outsiders at all, but I really do love you people, and I think all my friends seem to love me. But I'm beginning to wonder, can we trust our community leaders to do what's right for us? We don't seem to be getting answers here, and really would like to get some answers as to these problems instead of just lip service. We're not even getting lip service. We're not getting answers at all. We've got some real problems brewing here, and nothing's happening to answer these questions. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yes, please.
My name is Sierra Leone, 201 Mount Calvary Road. I want to say thank you to the song, very touching. And I also want to say I greatly appreciate Carroll County sheriffs and our police in the city. And I want you to know that we support you. We got you. Keep your head up and do what you need to do.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at public comments? Okay, hearing none and seeing none, we will move on to our financial session. I'm going to call on County Finance Director Alicia Searcy for item 8.1, is our financial recap for May of 2020.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm here to report on the May 2020 financials. You received those in your packet earlier, and we, for May 2020, had a total tax collection year-to-date of $45,314,583. That's 103.4% of our budget. So we've collected all the taxes that we had in our budget plus some. Our total revenue was $54,637,622. That's 102.4% of our budget. So at the end of May, we had collected all the revenue that we had budgeted plus a little. Our expenses paid year-to-date through May 2020 was $47,331,836. That's 88.7% of our budget. So our expenditures are actually running behind budget slightly. We should be at about 91%. This contributed to a fund balance at the end of May of $21,445,000, which is $3.38 million over the 2019 fund balance at the same time, May of 2019. Our general fund cash was up about $5 million over the same period for 2019. COVID has had an effect on our financial situation, largely on our revenues. Our May sales tax collections were down 7% compared to May of 2019. Now the June collections were back up and were 3.7% over the June 2019. So a lot of encouragement in our sales tax collections. Our sales tax will end up about 7% over budget for the fiscal year 2020. The biggest impact on our budget of COVID were our charges for services like for Parks and Rec and court services. Parks and Rec were closed. Parks is reopened and Recreation is in the midst of reopening. Court services never closed, but they were significantly slower in trying to deal with doing court through COVID. So the chairman had asked our departments, and all of the departments were very cooperative in using workers from other departments if they had a need, and that department was closed. And they also slowed down on expenditures and only spent money that was absolutely necessary. So that's why you can see the savings in our expense lines. So that's the summary that I have.
Are there any questions for Alicia?
I just have a comment, a positive comment, Alicia, in that I noticed this time the line item of excess revenue over expenditures of excess revenue is 7.255, which is about 1.28 million less than last month. In other words, we've used 1.28 million, which is a much lower use than we even anticipated. So I was glad to see that. I didn't know if there was any particular reason for that, but if we keep with that trending and use about 1.25 to 1.5 million versus the 2.5 million that was used last month, we'll come up with a rate that will give us a balance in that excess revenue fund of about $6 million at the end of the fiscal year. So that would be good.
It won't be quite that good, but
okay.
In May we did conserve a lot of cash because we did have departments that were totally closed.
Yeah.
And we were in the middle of the COVID crisis at that point, so we weren't sure which direction this was going in. In June, when we were able to reopen, of course, you've got more expenditures related to temporary labor at the rec department and at Parks when we reopen those. And then you've got some year-end expenditures that we talked about at the last meeting, some things that were approved. So that will work on that number a little bit.
Yeah, we said last time about 3.6 million, so we're still on track for that.
I think we'll be on track to do that.
Yeah, good.
Ms. Cersei, I echo those sentiments. We have been very fortunate with our year-end budget here, and it's looking really good for FY20, and I appreciate all the hard work of everyone. We've been very fortunate. We had such a strong economy leading up to COVID as well. A couple of the questions I had, I see that elections is trending down in expenses, which is not a bad thing, but I knew that we had increased the FY budget, and so I'm assuming maybe we'll have some more costs that might hit the June financials.
We will have some additional costs, but the elections department was very cooperative in utilizing help from the Recreation and Parks department. We had some poll workers that were concerned about working during the COVID situation, and our Recreation and Parks employees really kicked in and helped there, which saved us in labor cost as far as that was concerned. Additionally, we didn't have the March primary that we had in the budget, and so and also the May election was put off until June. That saved us some on paper ballots and again on poll workers for not having that one election. So some of that will be true savings. Okay.
I noticed that the actual month for looking at the court system, the actual month for Superior Court on the expenditure side was extremely low, which is, here again, a good thing. But when you look at some of the other courts, they seem to be trending more flat in comparison to last year. So I'm assuming since Superior Court was a much larger, they probably run a lot more jury trials and so forth. So even though we're looking good in all areas expense-wise, some of the other courts are probably not going to show the same amount of savings as Superior just because it's a larger operation. So when you shut that down, you would expect, I guess, more.
That's correct. We didn't have to have any jurors, court reporters, or bailiffs during the months that we were closed. The judges were still working and the courts were still open, but a lot of the judges were working from home and using Zoom to do hearings, but there were no jury trials, so we did have savings related to that.
Okay. And the transit program, I noticed, was over budget, but I believe you had talked about this before. This was maybe an accounting situation, so I just wanted, kind of for the record, we're still only incurring, I guess, a $35,000 annual expense on that, and the other that we're seeing is just an accounting measure. Is that correct?
That's correct. We're recognizing the revenue that we're being reimbursed from Three Rivers. Whereas last year we were not recognizing that revenue, we were offsetting the expense with it. So we're recognizing a higher expense and a higher revenue, which offset each other, but we will have a year-end budget amendment that was approved at the last meeting to adjust the budget for that.
Okay. And my final question, I just was going to see if you could elaborate a little bit on what is affecting the other charges for services line item. I see that we're trending way up there as far as the revenue, which here again is a good thing, but we're nearly $500,000 over budget there. So I just want to see if you give a little insight into that.
A large portion of that is related to the way we are now accounting for public works projects that they do for other municipalities and citizens within the county. And before, we were offsetting those expenses like we were doing in the transit system. Now we are recognizing that revenue and recognizing the expenses. So the Public Works has done about $400,000 in projects for municipalities that they've been reimbursed for, and citizens of the county where they put in culvert pipes and put in gravel for them.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Searcy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions for Alicia? Okay, hearing none, thank you. We'll now move on to 8.2, the consideration to approve a contract between Carroll County and GMAS for assisting the tax assessor's office with appraisal service of commercial and industrial properties. I'm going to call on the county attorney, Stacy Blackman.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. This is a contract for your consideration for appraisal services for commercial and industrial properties with GMAS Inc. It's a 3-year term. We are just finishing up a 3-year contract with the same company. So they will appraise our commercial and industrial tracts. The first year, the fee is $65,000, second year $65,000, and the third year is $100,000. And this is in the budget for the upcoming year. We have either party can terminate on 30 days notice, so, but so far it's been working out great, I understand.
Do I hear a motion and a second?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions for Stacy or any discussion?
I'd just like to say that it seems like good familiarity with those properties is a good thing, and if we can keep with the current contractor, I think that's a positive. Also, I think $65,000 for that type of appraiser is probably less expense than if we would go hiring and paying for the benefits. So.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Approved 6-0.
Thank you. Item 8.3 is a consideration of bids for the removal of asbestos from the building that formerly housed the Georgia State Patrol Post Number 4. I'm going to call on Public Works Director Charles Pope and District 2 Commissioner Clint Chance to present the bids.
Thank you, Chairman, Board of Commissioners. This is a project we started back in February, going to get the asbestos and the hazardous materials moved from the Georgia State Patrol Station in Villarica, which we're going to demo as soon as we get that out. We have 3 bids on it. We'll start with the highest one. Winter Environmental was $71,690. Atlas Environmental was $49,450, and Cadena Incorporated was $42,850. And if we approve the lowest bid, we need to add $1,950 for it to that, for the contour engineer to go in and make the final inspection.
Okay, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we award the asbestos abatement contract in reference to the former Georgia State Patrol building to Cadena Incorporated in the amount of $42,850, and I'll be making a separate motion for the other portion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. At this time, if there's any questions for Charles or any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And you
Motion
wanted to make
approved, 6-0.
Oh, thank you, Susan. And you wanted to make a second motion then for the,
Yes, ma'am. I make a motion to enter into a contract with Contour Engineering in an amount not to exceed $1,900 for the purpose of visual inspection to confirm all asbestos has been removed by the contractor prior to any building demolition.
okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, any questions? All right, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion approved, 6-0.
Okay, great. Thank you, Charles. 8.4 is the consideration of a lease agreement between Fairview Partnership and the county for use of the building located at 306 Tanner Street that currently houses the Public Defender's Office. I'm going to call on the County Attorney Stacy Blackman again to review the terms of the lease agreement.
Thank you. This is a simple lease to document the existing business arrangement for this building. It's a one-year lease. It's $5,500 a month rent. The utilities are paid by the landlord except for the telephone. The landlord pays the taxes, the maintenance, and the building, the fire and hazard insurance, and it's a one-year lease.
Do I have a motion and a second?
I make a motion that we enter into a one-year lease agreement as presented by the county attorney with Fairview Partnership for the purpose of securing office space for the Public Defender's Office and a total annual amount of $66,000.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions for Stacy or any discussion?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to give an update on a subcommittee that you had authorized me to chair. I've been working with Commissioner McClendon and Commissioner Fuller, and we're currently trying to interview a lot of people that would be involved with the court systems. In addition to that, with the Public Defender's Office, while there may be an opportunity to try to relocate in the future, we do not know when that would be, and it certainly would not be within a one-year time period. So just from a subcommittee standpoint, I wanted to let you know there would not be any conflict from our end.
Okay, there's no further discussion or questions. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion approved, 6-0.
Great, thank you. Item 8.5 is a consideration of bids on a new 3/4-ton service body pickup truck to be used as a quick response vehicle and the donation of the same vehicle to the Fairfield Plantation Fire Department. I'm going to call on County Fire Chief Tim Padgett and District 2 Commissioner Clint Chance to present the bids.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Here tonight to talk just a little bit about the agreement that that myself and Commissioner Chance met with their board and with their fire department there back last year. And what we come up with was assessing their needs and finding out what they needed inside Fairfield because they have their own combination fire department there that responds to the medical calls as well as structure fires and stuff like that. We back them up on fire calls, but they pretty much respond to the medical calls themselves. What we wanted to do and what we're proposing tonight is to buy them a utility vehicle. It's a QRV, a quick response vehicle that would be mainly basically with their medical supplies to where they can run the medical calls. As y'all know, Fairfield has a lot of hills and stuff, and we donated them a truck about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we feel like this will greatly assist them. It greatly assists us from running the medical calls in there because of our Station 3 at Sand Hill is pretty busy, and it would, right now with our other fire station not being open, we think this is a great idea. We met, and I think this works out the best for us. Charles Pope and his staff has worked hard on the bids and stuff, and I'd like to ask that Charles cover that, please.
Thank you, Tim. Well, what we done, we sent, emailed the RFPs to Don Rich Ford, Pugmire Ford, John Thornton GMC, Mike Bell Chevrolet, Scott Evans, Chrysler Dodge, Pioneer Ford, Liberty Chevrolet, Hardy Chevrolet, and Hardy Ford. We only had 3 response back, and one of them was from Cooper Motor Company in Clinton, South Carolina, which they was the lowest bid at $37,306. The second bid was Glenn Chrysler Jeep Dodge in Covington, Georgia, which is $38,320. And the only bid that come in from the county was Pioneer Ford in Bremen, and they came in at $39,429. That's with the service body and everything already included on it. And Tim and I talked, and we'd recommend to go with the Pioneer Ford, which is in the county.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second?
Madam Chair, I would make a motion that we accept the bid from Pioneer Ford for a 2020 F-250 Super Crew 4x4 with a special truck utility body in the amount of $39,429, and that we also would approve additional equipment to outfit this purchase to become a quick response emergency vehicle to be completed in-house at Public Works in the amount of $4,341.89 for a total investment of $43,770.89 to be paid from the undesignated line item in SPLOST. In addition, I would like to move that we deed this vehicle once completed to the Fire Rescue Department at Fairfield Plantation, where it will be used as the aforementioned indefinitely, and in the event the vehicle shall ever cease to be utilized as intended, it would be deeded back to the Carroll County Board of Commissioners.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion?
Madam Chair, I would like to add a little bit to Chief Padgett, and I appreciate the involvement that he's had, and also Mr. Pope. Fairfield is a unique, they are a unique area located in my district. They're the largest gated community in the state of Georgia. We try to do a lot for the residents in Fairfield. There are certain things by law that we can't necessarily do, such as paving their roads and so forth. And so to me, this is an opportunity for us to be able to show the tax-paying residents of Fairfield how their SPLOST dollars, how they get some kind of benefit from that. I remember when I first ran for office and speaking with past Commissioner Vicki Anderson, one thing that she heavily wanted us to look into is the ability to try to send out, such as a quick response vehicle. We have approximately 50% of 911 calls either have nothing to do with fire or not even the potential of a fire. And so when you talk about sending a piece of equipment that's several $100,000 up to $1 million out on the road, every time you send that out, you have the probability of it being in a wreck. And while we don't want any of our vehicles in a wreck, it would be a lot cheaper to have a $30,000 or $40,000 automobile that has to go into the shop versus a $500,000 or $1 million automobile. Not to mention the cost that I think over time when you're running these particular calls, not having to run such a large piece of equipment. So I think this serves twofold purposes. As Chief Padgett stated, it helps us because they are running calls for us that we don't have to send our fire trucks in on certain calls, and it really gives Fairfield an opportunity to have some SPLOST dollars spent in their particular area that we are not able to do like we are in other parts of the county. So I would appreciate the support of this item.
I just have one thought, it just occurred to me. Would Fairfield at all, or has there been any discussion about Fairfield participating in some of the funding, or is that not a thing that we do?
Well, I believe from my standpoint, that's not anything that I felt the need to ask them. And I'll give you an example. We're looking at a $43,000 automobile that will probably help them greatly for 5 or 10 years down the road. And I look at a half a stretch of road, if we go out and pave it, might be $80,000, Mr. Pope. I mean, you'd have to give me a better number. But the point is, there's certain things, even though the Fairfield residents are paying full county taxes, there's certain services, here again, although we try to help them out, that we can't legally, because they're a gated community, we can't do inside. So I think if we got into a tick for tack, what can you do or what's fair, I think when you look at the services that by law we really can't provide them, but they're paying full county taxes, I think that's what I would counter your question with. I don't know that that would really, in my opinion, would be a fair assessment, just considering that example.
Okay.
There's no further discussion or questions. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion approved 6-0.
Great, thank you. We'll now move into the business section. Item 9.1 is a consideration of a proposed resolution enacting a 60-day moratorium on the acceptance of applications and the issuance of land disturbances and other permits in an agricultural zoning district for the development of mining sites and mineral and natural material removal. I'm going to call on the County Attorney, Stacy Blackman, once again to review our proposed resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The county and the staff are in the process of reviewing our ordinance under Section 8.1K of Section 1028 in the agricultural district. It's a permitted use for the development of natural resources, including the removal of minerals and natural materials, provided that no machinery used for such purposes be located closer than 200 feet to any property line. So we are asking for 60 days to further study that and take that under consideration to propose certain changes. So this would be a resolution effective immediately if you approve it, to issue the 60-day moratorium on accepting applications and issuing land permit disturbance and other permits for activities associated with mining sites for the removal of minerals and natural materials, including without limitation rock quarries, for all properties located within agricultural districts of the unincorporated area of the county. And then the county staff and our office will be charged with reviewing and coming back to you with any proposed changes to the ordinance.
Do I have a motion and a second?
I make a motion to approve the resolution for the moratorium.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. I'm going to open it for discussion and questions at this point.
I would just like to say I have appreciated meeting and talking with the community. I was at Banning Mills, but that was just a little brief meeting. I've fielded several phone calls and so forth, and I have really appreciated the community's concern. This came out of nowhere. In 2011, the board reviewed these ordinances, but for whatever reason, no action was taken, and so the can was kicked down the road, and we were having to deal with it now. As Ms. Blackman indicated, the situation now is that it is a permitted use, just like harvesting a crop of soybeans. So there is no board approval of that, and if we change it as we are discussing now, we'll address these changes next month, and we're trying to get it where the board should have the approval. Right now, none of this comes to the board for approval. So I'm in support of the moratorium. It'll give us a chance to review and come up with the proper wording under agricultural and/or industrial, and we'll present that hopefully at our next meeting.
Okay, hearing no more questions or discussion, I've got what we do have a motion in a second, sorry. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Motion approved, 6-0.
thank you. Item 9.2 is an appointment to the Carroll County Board of Family and Children Services. It's been recommended that we reappoint Kim Jones to the Department of Family and Children Services Board. Are there any other nominations at this point? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion and a second to reappoint Kim Jones.
Motion made to present.
Second.
Is there any discussion, any questions? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of reappointing Kim Jones, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, thank you.
Motion approved, 6-0.
9.3 is an appointment to the Region 6 Behavioral Health and Development Disabilities Planning Board. It has been recommended that we reappoint probate judge Edie Haney. Are there any other nominations at this time? Okay, hearing and seeing none, I ask for a motion and a second, please.
Motion.
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion or any questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion approved, 6-0.
Okay, I'm now going to call on Public Works Director Charles Pope to present item 9.4. It's a request to abandon a portion of Hutchinson Ferry Road. Then we will open the public hearing on the proposed abandonment.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a section of Hutchinson Ferry Road between Bannon and Jones Mill. It's a piece of property that we acquired from the timber company, I think, 8 years ago, I think it was. Now the timber company has sold that property, and the county has decided that we will not cut across that area because the EPD is going to make us put a bridge in, and that would be several $1,000s. So we're going to donate this land back to Mr. Galbert, who bought the property there, and in exchange, he did sign the right-of-way for us to have the right-of-way on the north side of Hutchinson Ferry on the existing road that we have now, just in case that we did want to pave it in the future, we would have the right-of-way.
Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing. I'm going to ask if there's any comments from the public that they would like to speak on the specific item, which is abandoning a portion of Hutchinson Ferry Road. Yes, you'd like to come forward? If you'll state your name and address, please.
My name is Paul DeMint, 1225 Banning Road, Whitesburg. This is the first time I've heard about this, and I'm not sure what the abandonment means. And does this mean that the road is going to be the right-of-way that exists now? Is this going to be turned back over to a private citizen? Or?
If you see on that map, just up from the bottom, that section across there,
correct,
that's the property that we acquired from the timber company when they owned that whole piece. So that's what we're giving back. The existing road that's there now, we will have the 60-foot right-of-way if we ever wanted to pave it on through.
But does this mean that the road can still be used? I guess this is the unpaid portion, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, it's the unpaid portion. But we have some folks that live just right up there in that area. We haven't heard anything about this. But does this mean that the road is still going to be open?
Yeah, yes, it's open.
Okay.
Continue to be open.
Okay.
The road that's there, the existing road that's there now, will stay just like it is.
I guess I don't know what abandoned means.
That's the piece of property that we acquired up there, that we were gonna go straight across that swamp area. But that's a piece of property that's not even been cleared yet.
Okay, I see it. Sorry. I think I understand now. It's all good.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions, well, any other public comments? I'll ask again. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on the abandonment of this portion of Hutchinson Ferry Road? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I will close the public comments. I will ask for a motion and a second from the board.
Motion. Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Motion approved, 6-0.
Okay, great. Now we have 9.5. I'm going to ask Public Works Director Charles Pope to come back and present 9.5, a request to abandon a portion of the right-of-way on Butler Road. And then we will again open it up for public comments.
This is just a short section of Butler Road. It's in Mr. Chambers' district. I think the length that we're going to abandon is right at 700 foot of the end of the property there, which one of the family members, I think, is here from the Hutchison family. But beyond that, there's no house or anything. Both sides of the property belongs to the family. In exchange, they are giving us an easement there to make a turnaround right at the gate where we're going to abandon the section of road.
Okay, do I have a motion and a second? Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say just public. Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll now open it up for public hearing on the abandonment of Butler Road. Is there anyone here that would like to have a public comment? I'll ask again a second time. Is there anyone here that would like to have a public comment on the abandonment of Butler Road? Okay, seeing and hearing none, I'll now ask for a motion and a second, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Is there any questions or discussions from the board? All right, hearing and seeing none, I'll ask all those in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Motion
great.
approved, 6-0.
Thank you.
All right, we're now going into the zoning session, but since the zoning item we had scheduled was withdrawn by the applicant, we will not have a zoning session this evening. So if there is no further business, I will ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?